Hi and welcome. My name is Marit van Dijk. I'm a developer advocate at JetBrains. We also have a booth here, so please come visit the booth. We have a quiz where you can win nice swag and even like the lovely cap that Danielle is sporting. Show them the lovely cap. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. And you can even win a JetBrains All Product Pack if you want to try all the IDEs. You're still using IDEs, right? Cool. We're going to do some handcrafted artisanal code. There might be a little AI, but you know. There are many, many ways to stay up to date with IntelliJ IDEA and or myself. If you want to, like and subscribe. Sorry, they make me say that. Let me close that. So let's talk about IntelliJ IDEA. The I in IDE stands for integrated, so obviously we have integration with frameworks and all of the tools that you need. You know, frameworks like Spring. Do you like Spring, Danielle? Yes. Okay, Danielle up here from Spring team. So, you know, if you create a new project, I hardly ever use the menu, then you can create a new Java project, obviously. But you can also create a new Spring project with the Spring starter. So I know it's one of Josh's favorite places on the internet, but you don't actually have to go to start.spring.io. You can create your project from right inside IntelliJ IDEA, and then if you're anything like me, you won't get distracted by the wider internet. So, you know, that's good, actually. Or the same for Quarkus or whatever. I won't create another demo project because I have enough already. So obviously, Git integration, which is some of my favorite. I'll show you my very favorite Git feature if I remember, which is why I have the cheat sheet. So Maven integration with lots of other things. I have a talk that I've done in the past about keeping dependencies up to date, where I can show you, and we have a new talk with Andres Almirai on getting more out of Maven if you want more Maven stuff. We, by the way, let me shift for the POM XML. We are ready for Maven 4 in case they decide to release that anytime soon. But they've been talking about RC6 since December, and then it got really, really quiet. So who knows? So integration with all of the tools that you need out of the box, but you can also configure your IDE. So I put like a nice little icon in there because I can for the demo. You can change the color. I'll show you some customizations as well. I am using the presentation assistant, which I've turned on, which will show you the actions that I'm doing and the shortcuts for the standard macOS key map and the standard Windows and Linux key map, just so you know what I'm doing. The point of this presentation is not to teach you shortcuts, except for maybe a few, just the most essential ones, but I'm also going to show you a feature that will make it so that you no longer have to learn all of the shortcuts, which comes in handy because there are always a few that I forget. We can, of course, like I said, customize the IDE, so we can change the theme. Heads up, bright lights. So I'm actually going to change it to light theme. I used to be very firmly dark theme only, but I'm maybe getting mellow in my old age, and white theme is actually better for presenting depending on how good the screen is. So we'll go with that. I've already zoomed my IDE to 175, so I think you should all be able to read this in the back. Can I get some thumbs in the middle as well? Okay, thank you. So we can change the key map, we can change the view mode, so we could use presentation mode. You'd think I use that all the time, but actually I don't, because I prefer to have it look like it normally would for you. So let's exit that. One shortcut I would like you to remember is Shift-Shift, which is search everywhere. Who did not know Shift-Shift? So at least already some of you learned something. Yay! So you can use Shift-Shift to search everywhere. And you can even sometimes change, so either you could navigate to settings or you could even change some of the settings. So I'm going to turn off tabs just to save me a little bit of screen estate. And you can also, if you want to narrow down the results, because Shift will give you literally everything, you can use Tab to go to classes, files, symbols, actions, and all of those also have their own shortcuts. So if you know that you're looking for an action, you can use on Mac Command Shift A, or you can just use Shift and then Tab to the thing that you want. So now we have turned off tabs just to save us a little bit of screen estate so that we can really focus on the code and what we're doing. Which might beg the question, okay, but now how do I navigate to other classes? So for that we can use recent files to go to, I don't know, for example, a different class, and then back again. And we can also, as you might have seen, use recent files to open windows. Some of the windows have shortcuts so that you can open and close them, but some of them do not. So then you can search for them and open the windows here. Nice little bug with the themes there. So we can use that. Or if you have longer files, you can also use Command Shift E on Mac to go to recent locations, which will move you to actual places in the files. And if you use that same shortcut twice, it will show you the edited only. So different ways of navigating even without your tabs. There are also bookmarks. Who's familiar with bookmarks? Does that mean that everyone else is not familiar with bookmarks? Or you just don't like to raise your hand? Okay, so for bookmarks, let's go to the user class for a second. So we can set bookmarks using F3, which will give us a bookmark. Or we can use mnemonic bookmarks, meaning that we can remember them and then give them a name, so either a letter or a number. So let's call this one 1, and then create one here and call it 2. And then we can navigate to those bookmarks as such. So if you are tracing a stack trace and you want to leave bookmarks for yourself, or if you're working on a feature but you're finding all the typos, if you're like me and you spot the typos, I'm usually the only one on my team, and your team wants you to fix the typos but not as a part of this change, please Marit, have it be a different commit, then you can mark them and do it later. So you can open the bookmark tool window and then actually rename the bookmarks, show this later. Actually, I don't need this, I'm just using them to show you the bookmarks. So, you know, if you find stuff that you want to fix later, you can bookmark it and come back to it. And by the way, you can also bookmark branches if you want. Which can come in handy if you have demos and you want your co-speaker to know which branch he should go to. So there is that. But as promised, let's look at writing some code. I promised you handwritten artisanal code. If AI doesn't spoiler it for you, if you have a main class, we need the main method to start our Java program, right? So of course we could type the whole thing. But also we can use live templates. Does anybody know the live template for the main method? Anyone? PSVM, thank you. You've been using IntelliJ for a while then. Yes, you can use PSVM or public static void main, but now you can also use main. And of course, main is now, as of Java 25, you can use it also without the string array args. So we have even multiple live templates, or if you want to add the args later, you can do that as well. So I'm going to write some fairly trivial code because I don't want you to focus too much on the code. I want you to focus on the features I want to show you. So one of the things, you know, you have code completion, but you can use camel casing to look for stuff like if I want a buffered reader, I told you I'll write some trivial code. We're going to read some lines from a file and print them to the console. We've all done that. Should be easy enough. So we can use code completion. new file. My file is called lines.txt. And then a shortcut that I use often is complete current statement, so that I don't have to go to the end for the semicolon. It will do it for me. And of course, if we have code that doesn't compile, IntelliJ will tell us with the red squigglies. That is the technical term. And who knows how to fix it? What's the shortcut to fix the errors? You know this. Alt-Enter? Yes. But also we might want to go to where the error is. Does anybody know how? Yes, thank you, Daniel. F2 to go to the next error, and then we can use Alt-Enter to fix it. And then if we use F2 again, it will cycle first through the errors and then through the warnings. And if you want to, you can actually change that. So if you go to the inspection widget, the default is it will cycle through highest priority, so you can fix your errors first. But if you want to change that to all problems, you can. So there's that. Let's reload Maven, sure, because I made some changes. Now, when we read the lines from the file, we want to store them in a collection. We'll go with an array list of string, yes. And then, no, I do not want these. So AI can be helpful, but also get in the way. Super fun. So we want to assign this array list to a variable. I could go move my cursor to the start of the line and start typing the variable, but I want to rather keep moving forward. So one of the ways that we can assign this is by using a shortcut for assign variable. But there are multiple ways that I will show you. Now, when we are assigning the variable, if we want to change the type, we can use Shift-Tab to go to the start of this template. If we wanted to declare it as an array list, for example, we'll want to use the interface, but we could if we want to. Also, AI might help us with some names. In this case, not super helpful, but they can be. I have an example with dinosaurs, because why not? And then there's this little cogwheel to give you some additional options, which also helpfully displays the shortcut that I need to use it, because I always forget. And then we can use this. If I press Option, I don't know if you can see that the F and the V are underlined, meaning that if I press F, it will actually check that box or uncheck it if I wanted to make it a final variable. I promised you multiple ways that you can declare a variable. Another one is to use live templates or postfix completion. So these are live templates that you apply to something, so like so. But I also promised you a feature where you don't have to learn the shortcuts. So let me quickly show you. You are probably familiar with code completion. If you type a dot, you get anything that you can apply to that variable. I see nodding. So you see the API completion, everything that you can call on that variable. We get the postfix completion, like I just showed you. But now you also get commands. So this will give you a list of all of the relevant commands to your current context. And if you type 2 dots, if you can actually type, then it will filter to just those commands. So that's called command completion, or dot dot. Or my friend likes to call it the I feature. Who knows Morse code? Dot dot is I. So, Anyway, so I actually don't want this, so we can use command completion to introduce local variable. And then we will have a string line. Thank you. And then spoilers. So while line equals, and we want to read them from buffered reader. If you know the API of buffered reader, you might know that we want to use read line. So you can actually type r.r and that will also find it. So you don't have to type the whole thing, but you can do it like this. We want to make sure that they are not null. Now you notice that my exclamation mark equals turns into this lovely sign. That's because I am using ligatures. So if I look for font, I have enabled ligatures, which means that I can replace certain ASCII combinations with pretty characters. You can disable that. My husband says that this is actually easier for him to read if he has the proper ASCII, but I like the ligatures, and who says back-end people can't have nice things? So I like to have the ligatures. So now we have, again, a red squiggly, so let's fix that. We want to add the lines that we read to our string array. Type line. Now, if I type a semicolon here, IntelliJ knows that it should go at the end of the line, so that's nice. I also want to make sure that I'm not reading the blank lines, so I want to surround this with an if statement. I could type that myself, but then I have to go first to the front, opening brackets, put the closing bracket in the right place. So that's annoying. So instead, I can use surround with. This is another shortcut that I always forget, but now I don't have to remember because I can use ... command completion to surround with an if statement. And then I want to say line is not blank. So if I select is blank now, then I have to negate that, and I would have to move my cursor again to the start of the line. I don't want to do that. I can simply type an exclamation mark now, and IntelliJ will negate the Boolean statement. So we're reading all the lines, and then, yes, we do want to close the reader at the end. Now we want to do something with those lines. For example, we could create an array of strings, and then again we can assign that to a variable. Now we've seen lots of completion, so we have also a shortcut for basic completion if you want to see what you can complete here. Or if you want to use that but a little on steroids, we have type matching completion, which will fill in the only string array that we have, which is args currently. And if we use that same shortcut twice, it will give us additional options. And if we use it 3 times, it gives us even more options. So sometimes using the same shortcut multiple times will give you slightly different behavior, like the recent files and recent locations. If you use that twice, it shows you only the edited locations, like I've shown you. This is not actually what we want to do. Instead, we want to iterate over them. Of course, there's a live template for that. But if we want to see which live templates are available, we can either use search everywhere to look for insert live template if you don't know the shortcut. But we can also use command completion, show us live templates. The list is searchable, so we can look for the thing that we want. And yes, we will want to system out print line, but there's a shortcut for a live template for that as well. So we can print out the strings. And then let's make sure that I've written code that actually works. Yay, I managed to write working code. So now it prints the lines to the console. We have one more error. Let's clear that. So we have code that compiles, it works. Let's commit that. Don't change the POM. I don't want to think about the commit message. Sure, I just want to commit it while it works. And then, you know, it's 2026. Are we happy with the for loops? I'm interpreting the giggles as not so much. So let's see how we can improve that. Even though there are no errors, IntelliJ IDEA still has suggestions to improve our code. So we can use streams, right? The same here. Now it suggests that we can use a toList here, which makes it nicer. We can also join the declaration and the assignment. There's a shortcut for that, but I always forget, so now I don't have to remember. And then we might want to surround this with a try with resources as well, so we don't have to actually close the reader. Does this look better? I'm going to quickly peek at Jose. Is it better now, you think? It is better. It's maybe still not perfect, but it's better. Let's make sure that it still works. And then, you know, commit that as well. I'll go with the very interesting commit message of whip. You don't do that, right? And let me actually revert that, whatever it is. So now we have working code again. Let me smile at my friend here. Hi. Dimitris always takes the best pictures. Please give him a hand. Thank you. So we can extract this into a method, for example. So read lines. Let me clear this line. So instead of assign or declaring and then assigning and then returning, we could return right here, meaning we don't need this. I'll get to that later. Or this. We also have some import statements we no longer need. There's a shortcut to optimize import statements, but we can also use command completion to do file level actions like optimizing imports or reformatting our code. So I'll use that to optimize imports. You can also, if you want to select enable to optimize on the fly. That's especially helpful for the teammate who always forgets to do this. They should turn that on. You have this teammate, right? Yes, not just me. I won't actually, because I usually remember to do it. So now we have still working code, I hope. And let's just commit that again as whip. I will fix that up later. Who's familiar with interactive rebase? Git interactive. Who's not familiar with Git interactive? You get to learn about one of my favorite features. Woohoo! Okay, so we have working code. We're reading the lines. Let's look at some refactoring. So we can rename things. AI might suggest some things. I'm going to make it slightly shorter because I want to add some additional filters. And just to make it so that it almost fits the screen still. So I want to obviously not have the same filter 3 times because that would be useless. So instead I want to say starts with. Now if I press enter on this one, it will add it but keep what is already there, which is annoying, right? Yes, emphatic nodding, thank you. Cool. So if I press tab instead, it will overwrite it. So much better. So then we can filter for anything that doesn't start with an A, and then here filter for length. I know that what I'm doing is stupid, that's not the point. So use tab and make it longer than 3. So now if we run it, we should only get the strings that match these filters. Fortunately, my code works, but if it didn't, we have a great debugger. So let's add a breakpoint and run it through the debugger because I want to show you some of my favorite debugging features. So let's say the stream doesn't do what we want and we want to figure out why. We can run it through the debugger. We can see the value of our variable. And then we can resume and go over the values. But that doesn't really help me figure out what's going on with my stream. So what I can do instead is, let's rerun this, is I can use trace current stream chain. And this will show me or visualize what is going on. So it shows me the original strings that I've read from the file. And then it shows me all of the filters that we're applying. And if I hover over them, it will tell me what the filter does. So this one filters the blanks. And we can see that it filters the blanks. The next one, everything that starts with an A is filtered out. And the next one is filtering by length. So this actually helps you visualize what's going on in your stream chain. If you want to visualize the whole thing, you can go in flat mode. So if, like the other developer in my house, you have one of those super wide monitors, you can use this. I prefer the split mode, but, whichever works for you. So this can help you figure out what's going on with your streams. And so you can find that under the More button, or if you want to, you can customize the toolbar and then add trace, if only I could type, current stream chain. And then you can have the button. So say if you use that a lot, so you can customize your toolbar. Okay, let's show you some other debugger stuff. And I have a new debugger feature that I want to show you later. So one of my other favorite things is evaluate expression. This is useful if you're trying to figure out what's going on and you want to basically try a bunch of stuff. Like I use this if I'm trying to fix a bug and I'm like, is it this? Is it this? And you can actually use this as an editor. So you can be like, does it equal Devox UK? It does not. But, you can try and find out. So that's a super useful feature. we can do a lot more with breakpoints. So we can also say a condition. So if L equals, one of the strings was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 B's, so done. And then if we run it through the debugger, it will stop at that value. So if you have a bug that only occurs if value is bigger than whatever, or if it's a specific value, especially if you're going over collections, you don't want to be like resume, 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 resume. That's annoying. So you can set a condition. And then we also have non-suspending breakpoints, meaning that it wouldn't stop and you can actually log something. But that's what I wanted to show you later, which is new. I'm, by the way, using the IntelliJ 2026.2, which is the upcoming release, and the EAP should come out today or tomorrow. So you can try that yourself if you want. Let's see, we were filtering, debugger, yes. So we have 3 filters. This is a really long line. I'd really rather prefer it wasn't. So I can select all the occurrences and move them to a different line. There is also a setting to wrap chained method or to put chained method calls always on a new line if you want to do that, because that might make it easier to read. We can do a bunch of other stuff. So maybe we want to map this to something like a new class. Now we don't have this person class, but we can create an inner class. Let's call that name. We can create the field or parameter, so we can use command completion also to continue to move forward with our stuff. And then, I don't know, maybe map it back to a string. Sure. IntelliJ will tell us if there's nicer things like a method reference that we can use, but we really don't need this person class. So, you know, we can use IntelliJ to move forward and create the stuff as we are writing the code. Yeah, so there are lots of refactorings. I've showed you several already. Extract variable, extract method. We can also extract or introduce a parameter, not for the whole thing. Let's create one. So this is, I won't bother with the naming. There are 2 hard problems in computer science, right? Naming things, cache invalidation, and off by 1 errors. Thank you. Okay, I'll be here all day. Or I'll see myself out, whichever. And so if we create those parameters, now they're actually not in a logical order because we might want the file name and then the extension. So we could change the order, but that only changes the order of the arguments and not of the call site. So then they would end up in the wrong place. So what we can do instead is we can use the refactor this method or menu and change the signature, and then we can change the order of those parameters, and then they are changed at the call site as well. Of course, this makes absolutely no sense, so we can inline those either using command completion or Alt-Enter. These are complementary features. Alt-Enter will give you only a few options. Command completion will give you all of the relevant options for your context. And it also should work at the end of the string, but not actually in the middle of a string. Another fun thing is you can use it for navigation. So we can go to the declaration, except for how do we go back with command completion, because this file is read-only. So that's annoying. So we can go to the command completion settings, and there's this nice little feature, enable command completion for read-only files. And now we can go back. So nice. And so this is a feature that we introduced in the previous release, I think, but we keep adding to it. Like the showing the live templates is new in the upcoming release. Okay, how am I for time? Doing well. Let me show you some other features. Like I promised you some Git, because we have working code now, right? It still works. Yes, okay. I'll commit that as whip again. But, you know, I don't want my team to see all of these ugly things that I did to make it work and to make it prettier. So I want to actually fix that. And I can do that using interactive rebase. Interactive rebase means that I can kind of rewrite my history before I push it. Definitely before you push, not after, because that's going to give you hell. So we will use interactive rebase from here. And then we could change the order, which makes no sense here, because we're working on the same file. But say if you, like me, did some typo fixes and some of the features, then you can move all of the typo fixes to the end and then squish everything for the change in one commit and all of the fixes in another commit. In this case, let's just squash all of them. So if you squash, it will keep the existing commit messages. And if you fix up, then it won't keep the commit messages. I wanted to fix up everything, this one too. Yes. So now we have one neat commit, and it looks like the code was always prettier, at least. So yes, you can do that on the command line too, but then you have by default VI, and then you have the challenge of getting out of VI, which is, by the way, so I actually used interactive rebase on the command line until I joined JetBrains, and one of the first videos they had me do was on interactive rebase. But I do really like using the UI. I think it's more intuitive than using the command line in VI. But yes, for all of the stuff that I do in the UI for Git, yes, I can do that on the command line too, which is always the first comment on anything you do with Git in the UI. But you can do that on the command line, yes. But this is nicer. So some other features that I wanted to show you, because we have more nice stuff. Yes, if we go to the user class, we have this nice little regex. Who knows what the plural is of regex? Regrets. But anyway, so who likes writing regex? There's a few of you. So for the rest of us, and or your colleagues, let me show you some nice features. So we can inject language and then mark this as regex. There are different flavors of regex, I learned, because someone who likes regex asked me about it. And now we have several nice features. One is that we can check the regex. This is not AI. So we can check the regex and see whether a sample string matches this regex. So currently it says we need more example input, because this is a regex I can just about read. It says we want digits, 3 of them, a hyphen, more digits, 4 of them, basically. So if I add another digit, it's like, hey, that matches. If I then add another digit, that doesn't match. Does not match. I found a bug. It used to say that this doesn't match, actually. So maybe they changed it. I still have to talk to someone. So if I write a letter, which is not a digit, then it says it does not match. But of course, you know, if you want, you can also ask AI to explain it. So we have an AI action to explain code, and we have several specific ones to explain regex or explain cron job or SQL or things like that. I already explained it. It's going to explain the 7-digit thing. While we are waiting, we can play this nice game. This game was created by Alex, who is talking in the other room. He's hilarious. I am not a gamer, so I suck, I will tell you. So there's going to be bugs, and we can actually kill the bugs. And see, I told you I'm not a gamer, so I'm just, you know what, let's just die. Anyway, so you can play this game too, and then if you use the hashtag DevOpsUK and post to your social media, you can go on the leaderboard, and there's going to be like a scoreboard for this. But like I said, I am not a gamer, so there's going to be a scoreboard. You could show up here, try that. Anyway, so who says you can't have fun in the IDE? So in the meantime, Why are you asking me? Anyway, we already understood the regex, so we're fine. How do I escape this? Close it. How do I get out of this, André? Escape? Ah, escape, quit game, bye. Okay, see, but I showed them the game that they're... Пожалуйста. And what else? So search and replace is nice. So we have lots of custom inspections, but you can create your own if you want to. So let's say you have this optional or else, and if it's null, we throw a thing. We could use or else throw. And let me quickly copy paste this. And this, so I don't have to type later. So let's say we have this pattern in our code, and we know that we have it everywhere, and we want to not manually replace it, but we want to be a little bit smart about it. So we can replace structurally, and then use the code that I copied. And IntelliJ will actually know if you have something here that isn't in your code base, it will tell you. And then we want to make this a variable and this the same variable, and here as well. And we want to make sure that this is an optional. So we want to add a modifier of type and say that this should be an optional. And then we can look for this pattern in our code. We find the example that we just used. So surprising. We can preview the replacement or replace it, or we can create a custom template or a custom inspection. So we'll use the description that I copy-pasted, and we can put a suppress ID if there's anywhere where we wouldn't want to do this. And now IntelliJ tells us, hey, we can actually replace this with or else throw. And just to quickly show you another one of my favorite features, if we select this and select this, obviously it's already showing us that it's the same string because it's in the same file, but you might have times when you want to compare something from clipboard with some code in your project. For example, we had this tool where we would have cloud configuration that we had as part of our Git repo, but also you could manually change it there. So then when you did a deploy, you wanted to check that the settings that you had in your console are the same that you have in your code. So you copy and compare with clipboard, which can be very useful. Another thing, so for the language injection that I showed you for the regex, we can do the same for HTML or for JSON or for all other kinds of strings. You know, why not? If we say that this is JSON, then that also unlocks features like we can edit the JSON fragment as JSON and add new stuff there if we wanted to. So that can be very useful to have, sorry, can't English, highlighting of the syntax. So the same for HTML. Who still uses HTML? Anyone who front ends? Not me. HTML, any random flavor, and then it will highlight it properly. And if you have a database and connection, then you can also have the SQL and have code completion in there as well for your tables, which I should set up for this demo but haven't. And then let me let you show you some new features that we're working on. So the log point. Let me also put my tabs back because I'm actually used to using tabs. Tab placement. Tab placement. Why can't I type? Tab placement on the top. So let's say I have an order service. Let me close other tabs. I have an order service. I will run that in debug mode. And I have an order processor which asynchronously processes those orders. And I've just done a deployment and we have orders coming in. but some of them are failing. So, if you work in a web shop and the orders are failing, now you have a screaming manager and you have to figure out what's going on. But if we look in the debug window, we have no information. So we can't ask AI. We have to figure this out ourselves. So let's add a non-suspending breakpoint or a log point because we want more information. We could add system out print lines, but then we have to change the code, deploy the code, remove the stupid system out print lines later. So instead we can use, not all caps, no screaming, Marit. Order request plus order. As I'm typing this, you can see it come in. So now it's logging the orders for us, and we see that some of them have quantity 0, which is not what we want probably. I want to sell more than one. So we can actually click them and go to the place where we set this log point. So because you might set log points in different places, right, to get more information. So then if you see something interesting in your logging, you can click it and go to the point where that was logged. And then we can figure it out from there. So why is it 0? So the place order takes a place order request. Let's take a look at that, which takes order items which are validated. So why is that not working? We conveniently missed this validation for demo purposes. Don't do this in production, thanks. And if we then uncomment that and we restart our application, then we should see, hopefully, that all of the orders are now completed. So we use the log point to figure out what was wrong. Of course, now the ones that don't meet the validation are throwing exceptions, so we'd have to deal with those. But we use the log point as a way to start our investigation. We can sprinkle them all over to get more information, and then if we see relevant information in our logging, jump to that point to help start our investigation of what's going wrong. We don't have to change our code. We don't have to redeploy. We don't have to hot swap or whatever. We can even do this on a running application. In fact, probably better to have a non-suspending breakpoint on your running application. Andre can show you how to do it remotely if you go to our booth later. And because it's built on top of our regular debugger, we can, if you do want this to be an actual breakpoint, we can convert it to be a non-suspending breakpoint, add, change the logging, whatever, add conditions, and basically extend it to use the full use of our debugger. So super useful, and that's coming in the new release. So if you want to get the EAP, let me stop this, stop all of them. If you want to get the EAP, you can. So I use an application because you might not want to use the EAP instead of the release version because, it might not work properly. But we would very much request that you try the EAP and try these new features and give us your feedback while we can still work on them for the next release. So if you want to have multiple IDEs side by side, like me, then you can use the JetBrains Toolbox. If you Google for JetBrains Toolbox, you can find that, and then you can install many different versions, although not all of you can install the nightlies, for example. That's because I work here. But you could install like the latest release version, a previous release version, try the EAP, and you can use it to go to your projects and services as well. So that's useful if you search for JetBrains Toolbox. You can install multiple versions, and please do try out our new features and let us know what you think. And with that, I think I'm ahead of time, but since there's only a short break, oh, this is not the right README. I think I will leave it at that. If you want to have, wait, what am I doing? I can't speak and type at the same time apparently today. So why does that go? Why does it go back to the other? let's do it like this. So if you want to connect with me, you can find me on the socials, and you can find IntelliJ IDEA on the socials. And, you know, like and subscribe and hit the bell button and all of those things. Thank you. If you have any questions, I have some time now. I'll be around all day today. I'll be around most of tomorrow. We have the booth where you can talk to my lovely colleagues. If you have any questions later or any problems we can help you with. Thanks.